Have you ever been betrayed by someone you loved and trusted more than anyone? The kind of betrayal that feels like the ground was ripped from beneath you, and you're left suspended in midair, grasping at nothing? Imagine how that would feel, not just in the moment, but for years after. The deep wound of betrayal lingers long after the dust settles, changing you in ways you can't even begin to explain. I never imagined something like this could happen. For years, I walked around with a hole in my heart, pretending to be okay, but I was far from it. The worst part was that it wasn't just any betrayal. It was a betrayal from someone who meant everything to me. The one person I thought would never turn their back on me. Michael. The pain of being abandoned, without a word, without an explanation, haunted me every single day. And for a long time, I never understood why. But all that was about to change. Because just when I thought I had moved on, that person, Michael, was about to walk back into my life. But here's the twist. He wasn't coming back with apologies, nor was he coming back in a dramatic, tearful reunion. No, he walked in with a smile that I couldn't quite place. Was it a smile of guilt, of relief, or something else? That was the moment everything shifted. A betrayal from years ago. And yet here I was, looking into the face of the person who hurt me most, and he smiled. Michael and I had been inseparable once. We grew up together, our lives intertwined from childhood to adulthood. We knew each other's secrets, our dreams, our fears. In the small town where we lived, we were a kind of legend. The perfect pair. It seemed impossible that anyone could break the bond we shared, not even the world itself. But that's the thing about life. It's never as perfect as it seems. Michael was the kind of person who could light up a room with his laugh, a person who made you believe in endless possibilities. He had a confidence that drew people in, and when he looked at you with those deep blue eyes, you felt like the world revolved around you. I was no exception to this magnetic charm. As a kid, I would wait for the sound of his voice after school, rushing to meet him with the hope that he'd invite me on yet another adventure. We spent our teenage years planning our futures, talking about how we'd grow old together, our lives entangled like vines. I never questioned our bond, not once. But then everything changed. It was just before our high school graduation when I started noticing the subtle shifts in Michael. He began pulling away, becoming distant. I couldn't put my finger on it at first, but it was as if he was trying to escape from something. From me. From us. I didn't understand it. I tried to talk to him, tried to get him to open up, but he would just shrug it off, telling me it was nothing. But I knew. Deep down, I knew something was wrong. He wasn't the same. I spent months trying to make sense of his sudden coldness, wondering if I had done something wrong. Had I said something that hurt him? Had I changed somehow? But no matter how much I tried, he became more elusive. It wasn't until a late summer evening, long after graduation, that everything came crashing down. Michael had always been the kind of person who believed in fairness, in loyalty. So, when he chose to betray me, I couldn't understand why. It was as if the world tilted and everything we had built was a lie. He had gotten involved with my best friend, Sarah, the one person I never expected it from. That was the final blow. I remember the night I found out. I had gone to Sarah's house, hoping to catch up, only to find them sitting together in the dim light of her living room. Michael looked up as I entered, his face pale, guilt written all over it. I saw the look on his face, and I knew immediately. There was no need for words. The truth was clear. They had betrayed me, and it felt like my heart was being ripped out in that instant. Sarah tried to apologize, but the damage was done. Michael said nothing. He just looked at me with those same blue eyes, but this time they held no warmth, no love, just emptiness. And that's when I knew. Our friendship, our love, had been nothing more than a facade, an illusion. For years after that night, I refused to speak to either of them. I left town, and the memories of that betrayal haunted me everywhere I went. The trust one had once given so freely now felt like a joke, something so fragile it shattered with a single lie. It wasn't just the betrayal that hurt. It was the absence of any explanation. Michael didn't even try to fight for our friendship. He didn't try to apologize. He just disappeared from my life without a word. And it broke me. In the years that followed, I built walls around myself. I became a different person, more guarded, more cynical. I told myself I had moved on, that I didn't need anyone. But deep down, I missed Michael. I missed the connection we once had, even though I knew it was irreparable. I became determined to find peace without him, to live a life without any trace of the betrayal that had consumed me. But life has a way of bringing people back when you least expect it. Years passed. The memories of Michael and Sarah faded into the background, and I slowly built a new life. I focused on my career, I met new friends, and I even started to date again. Still, there was an emptiness I couldn't quite fill. The years had softened the pain, but the scar was always there, just beneath the surface. I tried to forget, but every now and then, I'd catch myself thinking about them, about the past, and wonder if they ever thought about me. And then, one day, out of nowhere, Michael appeared. It wasn't a grand gesture, no dramatic return. He simply walked into my life again. No warning, no apology, just a smile. A smile that seemed so out of place for everything that had happened between us. At first, I couldn't even process it. Was I seeing things? Had I imagined it? Was this real? But it was him, standing in front of me, like no time had passed. And the smile, it was there again, just like old times. The smile that used to make me feel like I was the only person in the world who mattered. It wasn't just the shock of seeing him after so many years that threw me off. It was the way he looked at me. It was as though the years of silence, of betrayal, never happened. He was different, but there was something familiar in the way he looked at me. I couldn't tell if it was guilt, nostalgia, or something else entirely. But I knew I had to confront him. I couldn't just let him walk back into my life without understanding why. Why did he come back? Why was he smiling? And more importantly, could I forgive him for what he did? When I saw Michael standing there, smiling as though the past had never happened, I was torn between two overwhelming emotions, anger and confusion. How could he act like everything was normal? How could he smile at me, as if the betrayal, the pain, the years of silence had meant nothing? There were so many questions racing through my mind, and none of them seemed to have an answer. I stood there, frozen, unsure of how to react. Was I supposed to welcome him back with open arms? To forget everything? Or should I confront him, demand answers, make him feel the weight of the hurt he had caused? I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing thoughts. The silence between us stretched on, thick and suffocating. It felt like an eternity. Finally, I spoke, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to sound calm. "What are you doing here, Michael?" I asked, trying to keep the bitterness out of my voice, but I couldn't mask the hurt that still clung to every word. Michael's smile faltered for just a moment, but then he seemed to recover, his expression shifting to one of mild curiosity, almost as if he were studying me. His gaze held the same warmth I remembered, but there was something different now, something distant. "I needed to see you," he said simply, his voice steady, but his eyes betraying something deeper, something unresolved. "After everything that happened, you needed to see me?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You think it's that easy? After what you did?" His face tightened, and for the first time, I saw the flicker of guilt behind his eyes. But it was quickly masked, buried beneath a layer of cool detachment. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to understand. I didn't mean to hurt you. Not like that." The words felt hollow, as if they had been rehearsed. There was no real emotion behind them, no apology, no explanation. It was the same empty excuse I had heard years ago, and yet it still stung. I shook my head, fighting back the tears that threatened to spill. "Don't say that, Michael. You knew exactly what you were doing. You knew how much I trusted you. You knew how much I loved you." My voice cracked as I said the last part, and I quickly turned away to hide my vulnerability. Michael stepped forward, but I held up a hand to stop him. "Don't come any closer." For a moment, he paused, unsure of what to do, but then he spoke again, his voice softer this time. "I never wanted to hurt you. I was confused. I was scared, and I made a terrible mistake. I regret it every day." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that the man standing in front of me, the man I had once shared everything with, was genuine in his remorse. But how could I? How could I just forget the years of silence? The years of wondering why he left me hanging with no explanation, no closure? You regret it? You regret breaking my heart and then disappearing without a word? You think a few words can erase all that? My voice was rising now, fueled by the anger I had buried for so long. You can't just come back and expect everything to be fine, Michael. It doesn't work like that. He looked at me, and I could see the hurt in his eyes. But I wasn't sure if it was guilt or something else. Was he truly sorry for what he had done, or was he simply trying to absolve himself of the burden he had carried all these years? I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need to try, Michael said, his voice pleading, almost desperate. I've been living with the guilt of what I did for years, and it's been eating me alive. I could see the sincerity in his eyes, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to make me forget the years I had spent trying to heal, try to move on, only to have him waltz back into my life as if nothing had ever happened. Why now, Michael? Why after all this time? What makes you think I'm ready to forgive you? I asked, my voice trembling with emotion. Michael hesitated, his gaze shifting away for a brief moment before he met my eyes again. Because I can't live with myself anymore. I've been carrying this weight, and I can't move forward without fixing what I broke. You were the most important person in my life, and I ruined it. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I need to make things right. I need to be honest with you. His words hung in the air, and for a moment I was struck by how much he had changed. This wasn't the confident, carefree Michael I had known. This was a man burdened by regret and shame. But was it enough? Could I trust him again? Could I forgive him for something that had left such a deep scar? Before I could respond, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, distracted for a moment. It was a message from Sarah, my best friend. My heart sank. "Are you really talking to him?" the message read. I felt a wave of frustration and anger rise within me. Sarah, the other person involved in this betrayal. The one who had hurt me just as much as Michael had. Why was she messaging me now? Was she trying to make me doubt myself again? I showed Michael the message, my fingers trembling. "You don't get to come back into my life and expect me to just forget everything." And Sarah? "I don't know what your intentions are, but I'm done with her too." Michael's face hardened at the mention of Sarah. "I didn't come back for her. I came back for you, to make things right between us. But if you don't want that, if you don't think it's possible, then I'll leave. I'll go, but I needed to try." There was something in his voice, now a finality. A realization that maybe, just maybe, the door to reconciliation was already closed. The rain had started to fall by the time Michael turned to leave. A storm was brewing not just outside, but within me too. He stood by the door, his back to me, waiting for me to say something, anything. His hand hovered over the doorknob, but he didn't move. Not yet. As though he was waiting for the very answer that could determine the future of both our lives. I looked at him, torn between the emotions that surged inside me. I wanted to scream, to tell him how much he had destroyed me, how the pain of his betrayal had marked me in ways I still hadn't fully understood. But there was something else, something softer, something that didn't just want revenge or closure. It wanted peace. But could I really let go of everything that had happened? Could I forgive him for leaving me with nothing but questions? "Why did you leave?" I asked, my voice soft but steady. "What made you walk away without a word?" He turned around slowly, and his eyes, filled with years of regret, met mine. There it was, the truth, the thing I had waited so long to hear. He took a step toward me, his face contorting with the pain of his confession. "I was scared," he said quietly. "I thought I had to choose between you and everything else. My ambitions, my dreams, my need to prove something to myself. And in the process, I lost you." I felt a chill run down my spine. The rawness of his words cut deeper than I had expected. But the pain wasn't just in his confession. It was in the realization that his absence had left a void that nothing could fill. I had lived without him for years, building a life that was mine alone, but the hole in my heart had never truly healed. I waited for you, I whispered. I waited for you to come back, to explain, to make it right. And for years, you were silent. Do you know what that did to me? Do you know how much it hurt? Michael closed his eyes, as though he couldn't bear to look at me. I know. I know now. And every day, I regretted walking away from you. But I thought if I came back too soon, you wouldn't see the man I've become. I wanted to prove that I was worth it. Worth your love. But in trying to fix myself, I left you broken. His words were like a salve to a wound I hadn't realized was still open. It wasn't just about him leaving. It was about the years I had spent trying to figure out what had happened, why it had happened. He hadn't just abandoned me physically. He had taken away the sense of closure I so desperately needed. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my emotions. The weight of everything we had been through hung in the air like an invisible fog. The betrayal, the abandonment, the years of wondering if he would ever come back. It all flooded my mind in an overwhelming rush. And yet, as I stood there looking at him, I realized something. No matter how much it had hurt, I had survived. I had grown stronger. But could I really let him back into my life? Michael, I started, my voice trembling. I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I can forget everything that happened. But I'm not the same person I was when you left. I've learned to live without you. I've learned to find my own strength, my own peace. He nodded slowly, his eyes filled with understanding. I don't expect you to forget. I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I need you to know that I'm not the same man who walked away from you. I've changed, and I would give anything to undo the hurt I caused. For a long time, we stood there in silence, the weight of his words hanging between us. It was the most honest moment we had shared in years. No walls, no pretenses. But as much as I wanted to believe in his transformation, there was something inside me still hesitant, still afraid. Could I trust him again? Could I really open my heart to someone who had once shattered it into a million pieces? I looked at him one last time, seeing the man he had become, not the man who had betrayed me, and a strange calm settled over me. The storm inside me began to quiet, not because I had found an easy answer, but because I realized that it wasn't about erasing the past. It was about how we chose to move forward from it. I don't know if we can ever go back to what we were, Michael, I said, my voice quiet but firm. But maybe we can start with honesty and see where it takes us. His eyes softened, and for the first time, I saw the vulnerability in him. The same vulnerability I had once trusted so deeply. I'll take whatever you can give me. I'm not asking for everything, just a chance to prove that I can be the man you deserve. With those words, I finally felt something shift. It wasn't an instant healing, nor a magical fix. But it was a beginning. Something that had been lost for so long. Days passed, and with each one, I found myself processing everything that had happened. Michael and I talked. We didn't rush back into anything, but we began to rebuild the foundation that had once been shattered. It was slow, sometimes painful, but it was real. We took it one step at a time, learning to trust each other again, not as the people we had once been, but as the people we had become. It wasn't easy, but it was honest. And maybe that was enough. A few weeks later, I met with Sarah. She had reached out to apologize, but I knew it wasn't going to be simple. She had been part of the betrayal too, and I still carried the hurt of her silence. We met at a cafe, and when she sat down across from me, her eyes were full of regret. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, "for everything, for turning my back on you when you needed me the most. I was wrong." I could see that she was genuinely sorry. But I had moved on. I had learned that some wounds could heal, but others had to be left behind. And I wasn't sure I could ever trust her the same way again. "I appreciate your apology, Sarah," I said, my voice steady. "But the truth is, I can't keep holding on to the past. Not anymore. I've learned that I can only control my own peace." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I understand. I just hope you find the peace you deserve." As we parted ways, I felt lighter, free from the weight of holding onto old grudges. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was in control of my own story, no longer defined by the betrayal that had once consumed me. In the end, I learned that healing isn't always about forgetting the past. Sometimes it's about learning how to live with it, to understand its lessons, and to move forward with a new sense of strength. It was not an easy journey, and it was far from over. But as I stood there, watching the rain begin to clear, I knew one thing for certain. I had made it through. And no matter what the future held, I would never let anyone or anything take my peace away again. As the days went by, I began to understand something profound. The journey of healing wasn't about finding the perfect closure or making everything right in an instant. It was about the choices we make, the strength we summon to forgive when it feels impossible, and the courage it takes to let go of what we cannot change. And now, as I stand here, reflecting on the years that have passed, I can finally see clearly. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the feeling of being forgotten, it all shaped me, but it didn't define me. I am not the person I was when it all happened. I have grown. I have found my peace, not by erasing the past, but by embracing it for what it taught me. What would you choose if you were in my shoes? Would you allow the past to control you, to keep you in the shadows of hurt? Or would you find the courage to walk into the light of healing and freedom? You see, forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you. It's about releasing the weight that anchors you to pain and embracing the power you have to choose your future. It's about realizing that no one, no matter how deeply they've hurt you, can take away your ability to reclaim your peace. As you reflect on your own experiences, think about this. What is holding you back? What piece of your heart are you still guarding with walls, afraid to let go? The truth is, the more we hold on to anger and resentment, the less space there is for joy and growth. It's time to make a choice, to release what weighs you down and step into the life you deserve. The past may have shaped us, but it does not have to control us. The future is yours to create, and no one can take that away from you. So what will you do next? Will you keep carrying the burden, or will you choose to heal and move forward with strength?